At 5 in the morning, most hotel curtains are still closed. But out on the coast, a lantern is moving across the water. At a temple, an oil lamp catches. Somewhere, bread is coming out of an oven, and a train is already on its way. This is Sri Lanka before the tourist day begins. Along the western coast, night does not end with an alarm clock. It ends when a boat touches the sand. The sea is still blue-black, the beach is almost empty, and the first conversation of the day is carried by the wind. 2 fishermen pull together. Behind them, the horizon quietly begins to change. Minutes later, the catch reaches the market. Floors are washed, baskets are opened, and prices move quickly from one voice to another. Nothing here waits for perfect light or a camera. This work began hours ago, far beyond the shore. By the time a visitor orders breakfast, an entire working day may already be underway. In another part of the island, morning begins more softly. White flowers are placed Not far away, a bakery is warm while the street outside is still blue. Metal trays slide forward. Flour hangs briefly in the light. The first loaves are not made for photographs. They are made for school bags, offices, buses, and small kitchen tables. The smell reaches the road before the doors are fully open. At a roadside tea stall, steam rises into the cooler air. A bus pauses. Someone checks the time, someone takes the final sip, and the vendor begins another pour without wasting a movement. This is one of Sri Lanka's smallest morning rituals. Hot tea, a few quiet words, and then the day continues. High in the central hills, dawn arrives through mist. Tea workers follow narrow paths between wet green rows, carrying the tools of a routine repeated across generations. The landscape looks peaceful from a train window, but its beauty is also a workplace. Every leaf, basket, and careful step belongs to a much bigger human story. Then the railway begins to speak. Steel touches steel, a horn travels through the valley, and a blue train appears around the curve. For travelers, it may become a famous photograph. For the people waiting on the platform, it is simply the morning connection to work, to family, to another town. The station clerk moves forward. Shoes cross the platform. A worker studies the line while the headlight grows brighter in the distance. This is not the slow, romantic railway scene from a postcard. It is ordinary movement, full of small decisions, which carriage, which seat, which stop, and whether there is time for one more tea. By sunrise, Colombo has changed its rhythm. Buses lean into the road, tuk-tuks slip through gaps, shutters lift and pavement. Inside the produce market, color arrives before decoration. Bananas, coconuts, and green vegetables move from crates to carts, then towards restaurants and homes. Hands lift, sort, and count. The work is fast but never random. An invisible map of the city is being supplied, breakfast by breakfast and street by street. On the south coast, the same sunrise falls across 2 different mornings. Fishermen repair a net beside a weathered canoe. A little farther away, surfers walk towards the water. One group is beginning work, the other is beginning an adventure. For a moment, the beach belongs equally to both. And finally, the island sits down to eat. A harper leaves the pan, tea reaches the table, and the conversation becomes louder than the ceiling fan. The morning that began with a lantern at sea now arrives in a simple cafe. Most customers will never see every step that brought it here, but those steps are Sri Lanka too. These moments happen in different towns, on different roads and along different shores. Together, they form an ordinary Sri Lankan morning quiet, hardworking, spiritual, impatient, generous and alive. By the time the island appears on a tourist's breakfast table, an entire day has already happened. Subscribe to Sri Lanka clearly, and come back for the parts of Sri Lanka most visitors never notice.